Welcome to the fight game. He's Icewater. I'm Puma. And this boxer is one of our favorite boxers that we're going to honor today. Is Aaron the Hawk Pryor. We've talked about him in previous shows, but we're going to go in depth with this great fighter who passed away in October 9th of 2016. He spent 14 years fighting, and from 1976 to 1990, he represented the United States in the Pan Am Games. He almost made the Olympic team, that famous Olympic team in 1976, where all those great fighters, but he lost to Howard Davis Jr., who went on, I believe he got a gold medal in that particular Olympics. But he had a record of 39-1 with 35 knockouts. If you are a boxing, purist, you got to go see the time where the Hawk beat Tommy Hearns in the Golden Gloves. It's on YouTube. Go check it out. You never think you would see them two matched up, but the Hawk gave Tommy Hearns everything, and more than he can handle in that particular fight. And we're going to talk about how he almost fought Sugar Ray Leonard, but a lot of things, his honors, things of that sort. But give me your thoughts of the Hawk, man.
Yeah, one of my favorites of all time, man. One, because of his personality, the fact that he's from Cincinnati. We love our Ohio boxers. And just a good dude. And he was relentless. His style was wild. He was a little bit obscure, kind of in and out, but he was relentless. And that's why a lot of people thought he was always on something, because he was always all over. He was like a bobblehead. He go back and forth and bouncing around, and he would always come back. You knock him down, he get up. He wasn't panicking. Most people waiting for the 8 count. He just like, let me back out there, and he was so amazing like that. But that record alone is just crazy. 39-1 and 35 KOs.
Yeah.
Well, people don't understand. I think he does not get the recognition he deserves, because during the time that he was really popular, or he was really hot, 76 to 90, the lighter weights were not getting a lot of love in that division, right? So you look at the welterweights were huge. You had Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, of course Marvin Hagler at middleweight. Then you went up to maybe the heavies, where you had light heavyweight like the Michael Spinks of the world. And then of course heavyweight was always dominant, because that's what we like. We've been taught back in the day how heavyweights were major. So you had this dude that was probably, like you said, he was like light welter.
Light
So it's
welterweight,
like
yeah.
that's like 140. Look at 140 right now. Everybody's at 140. The Devin Haney's of the world, Teofimo Lopez's. There's a lot of folks at 140. And even at 135, it would have been amazing. But 140 right now is a class division. But back then, there's only a few folks that he could fight. I remember the two amazing fights with Alexis Arguello. Amazing. Alexis Arguello was one of the meanest and one of the toughest fighters, but Pryor had his number. And I forget off of this real quick. The things I just remember is, I just believe this. It's something I always wanted to see. They talk about ducking now. I believe with all my heart that one guy wanted to really duck him. I know you think it's the popular one, but the one fight people in Ohio wanted to see was Aaron Pryor and Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
Yeah.
Both from Ohio. And Boom Boom Mancini fought Alexis Arguello, and Arguello beat him. But people still wanted to see the fight, because it's like, if you had that in Ohio, you have a Northwest guy, upper northern guy from Cleveland, Youngstown area, versus Aaron Pryor down from Cincinnati. It's a fight we wanted to see. But for some reason or another, we can never get that. And I don't know if it was too much for Alexis Arguello and what he did to Alexis Arguello or whatever, but that's a fight that we definitely want to see.
So one of the things that I always thought, until I started reading and researching it, is that Sugar Ray Leonard was trying to avoid boxing the Hawk, but I found out that wasn't true. It's like they had a deal, and Aaron Pryor wanted more money. I think it was like 750,000 at that particular time, and Aaron Pryor, like, no, I want more money. I think it was at 50,000, 500,000 at one time, then 7,500,000 at one time, and then he fought somebody out to fight somebody for $1 million. But they did have a fight that was set And then Aaron Pryor in the story said that he was driving down the road and found out via radio that Sugar Ray Leonard had a detached retina. And he said he pulled off the road and started crying because everybody wanted to see that fight to see who would be the best out of those two. And now he probably knew, as well as everybody else knows, Sugar Ray Leonard retired 6 months later, and that fight never happened. They wanted him to fight Roberto Duran. That deal went down. But tell us how that fight would have took Aaron Pryor to the stratosphere, even fighting either one of those particular guys.
Yeah, well, first of all, with Duran, yeah, I mean, it was because of the toughness of Duran and what Duran had been the bully early on in his career. So I think a lot of people would like to see whether or not Pryor could have stood up to such a challenge, right? But the fight, of course, that you said would have been a mega type situation for Aaron Pryor would have been versus Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard was not afraid to take on any comers. You think about early in his career, when he fought Durant early and took a loss, right? So he fought him, he fought the Wilfred Benitez of the world. I mean, and he just went on and on. So fought Thomas Hearns twice.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thought he was crazy for that. Fought him. Then also, of course, fought Hagler. So in order to fight Aaron Pryor, and Pryor was to win that fight, based on what the resume Sugar Ray Leonard had faced, and then having Aaron Pryor take him down, he just would have shot up. He would have been the name that one of the names you talk about all the time. And again, you talked about the amateurs and the way that he dominated Thomas Hearn. He would have just shot right up there, in my opinion. So I can see why he was frustrated. And he was a really nice guy. If you got a chance to meet him or talk to him, people would talk to him about money and, he had issues with money and things of that nature, kind of like a la Mike Tyson a little bit. And he would spend, or somebody else was spending. And you ask that question about the money. And he's like, look, man, I never had, like Mike Tyson said, I never had any money. So you give it to me, I'm gonna spend it, I'm gonna give it away. Money has no
Right.
really bearing to him. It's like I came from nothing, bro.
Right.
And he said the majority of people that enjoyed the money they made was his family and other people. He said, I don't need that. Need to get around and do what I do. But that's how simple he was, and
Yeah.
not simple as a person, but his life was like it didn't matter. All of the extra, the hoopla and everything, fanfare. It wasn't about the money. He fought because he liked to fight, man, and it's just something about that. But he was just such a straight up funny. The one thing I love about him is the fact that despite all he went through in his life, and he turned his life around and found the Lord, that he was all he went through. He was hilarious. He was comical, funny dude. I mean, he loved laughing. You ask him about something crazy, he'd be like, man, you make a joke out of it. So
Yeah.
I got a chance to deal with that firsthand. We could talk about that one day.
And I don't want you to share that story to the end. So you got to stick
You
around
tell
for
me
the
when.
story of Ice's
All
brushing
right.
with greatness with Aaron Pryor. But speaking of his amateur career, he won 204 fights. He lost 16 fights as an amateur career. And he won the AAU Light Heavyweight Championship in 1973. He won it again in 1975. He had a silver medal in the Pan Am Games. He would have been on that 76 team, but they said he lost a controversial fight against Howard Davis Jr. And so he didn't make the team. He became an alternate on that team, on the 76 team in Montreal. And if you don't know about that Olympic team in 1976, go Google it. It was one of, if not the best boxing team that the United States ever put together. And there were a lot of champions that came out of that. And we always thought that Howard Davis would be like the shining star of that. His career didn't go as well as expected. But just looking at his career, he always reminded me of a little kid fighting in the ring that was relentless, and you could not get away from this. I mean, he would just fight with his chest out, with his chin out, and was just swinging wildly. And nobody could get. I mean, he would not let you kind of breathe in that ring, and that was kind of the charm that I think a lot of people liked of Aaron Pryor. It was like this stubborn 5'6" dude that's going to give you everything you wanted in a fight, and you can't get away from him.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's what he was. He was a ball of energy all the time. And you think about some of the fighters, like particularly with Alexis Arguello, he was really lean and thin, and he was tall. And that's supposed to be the way where he can sit there and just throw that jab and keep that that little guy off of him. But he just succumbed to the pressure to a point where Pryor just kept. He was just straightforward, man. He was no, well, I'm gonna, doing this. No, he was. I'm going right here, and I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
What surprised me, and maybe people don't bring this up, he went on a 26 fight, uh, knocking out people, 26, knocked out 26 people in a row. Knocking out folks. And they don't talk about his power. And this is like one of the longest knockout streaks in boxing history. But if you go on YouTube and look at him, you wouldn't think that this guy had the power to knock out anybody. But like we said, he had 39, he won 39 out of 40 fights, and 35 of those ended by knockout. And it's like the ball of energy, whether it was power or just wearing you down, that's impressive, bro. 26 in a row.
Yeah. Hey, man. The way he fought is because he'd always come in and he would throw these hooks, man. And he'd
Mm-hmm.
come at you and he just, ooh, 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 ooh. And he just kept, and you hit him back, come back. And he would just not stop. And he was just like, and then he come back and he just moving, perpetual motion, always moving, always moving. You're like, and then sometimes he seems so wild that you go, man, sooner or later somebody gonna catch it,
Gonna catch him,
right?
yeah. And then
Somebody gonna catch it because he, just throwing wildness. But what you didn't realize is he was penetrating the style of the person getting inside of them, and some of the punches that he was throwing was connecting. And not only were they connecting with power. So it looked kind of a little sloppy at times, a little bit out of control, a little unorthodox, if you will, in the way that he fought. But he was dropping folks like bad habits with that style, and he was hitting folks. Again, to watch some of the top guys like Alexis Arguello drop down after he'd been dominating so many people, and that, woo! Again, another boxer, like we said with Joe Frazier, that did not get any love. You go back and look at, let's just think about this. All these boxing careers, 39 1 and 0, 35 knockouts. Where? Where where is that happening in
yeah.
history of boxing?
So he won the WBA title and held that from 1980 to 1983. He won the IBF title, held that from 1984 to 1985. He held the Ring Magazine title from 1980 to 1983 and the Lineal title from 1983 to 1986. He was voted in 1982 the Fighter of the Year, and he became a international Hall of Famer in 1996. And in 1999, he became the Associated Press, the world's best lightweight of the 20th century. So I know a lot of boxing purists, when you mention Aaron Pryor, they get a smile on their face and like, that was a dog, that was a dog. And we even do that when we, people talk about Aaron Pryor. But a lot of folks aren't giving this guy his love. They didn't give it back then. But I thought that fight with Sugar Ray or with Roberto Duran would have gotten him to a particular stratosphere that we would be talking about him. And you said before we did the show, he's like in the next tier down from all those great fighters because he didn't get to fight some of those fighters that we think he would have beat.
Yeah, and that's clear. It has nothing to do with his talent or the skill level. But you don't get the opportunity to fight the boxers or the fighters that people think are special, right? Guys have this marquee talent and they will be talked about for ages to come. He never got that opportunity. Like you said before, never got a chance to see the fight with Boom Boom Mancini, um, Duran, Sugar Ray. the Sugar Ray and Duran particularly were the guys that were making noise
Right. Right.
before,
Right.
and they're legendary. They're Hall of Famers, no doubt. But sometimes the smaller guy or the guy that's not getting a lot of love that you may not hear about, I throw one at you. Until it came about, people didn't know who the hell Manny Pacquiao was.
Right.
And you
Exactly.
look at where he started. Like I told you, I found him when I was watching the first fight with Juan Manuel Marquez, one of the greatest boxing matches I've ever seen. But he was a little guy at that weight. And if he never elevated, he almost had to go to 147 to get some love, some real love. And once he started to come along and got the weight, he was beating guys on because he was able to stay up there. But that's a perfect example of another guy too that if he did not move up further enough, then you would not have known about him. But it's totally different now because look at all the love that in a way the monster's getting.
Yeah.
The monster at 122 is getting a lot of love. So you never before would have heard about would have thought about who's that guy at 122 or hell who's that guy at 130. But it's totally different now because some of the top tier best fighters and boxers at the lighter weights.
Yeah, and if you want to watch the quintessential um, Aaron Pryor, the Hawk, watch those two fights with Alexis Arguello. The 1982 fight was like the fight of the century. That's what the magazines were saying. But a lot of controversy came along with Aaron Pryor too about maybe he's using some substances in those fights because he was just too hyped and things of that sort. So I want you to tell the story about when you met the Hawk and you had a question for him.
Yeah. So let me set the table. So I was a reporter for a newspaper, and they were celebrating different sports personalities. And Aaron Pryor happened to be there too. I think 2+ beer was some kind of a charity event where I think it was like connected to a church that he really was connected to. So they brought him up, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm excited and whatnot," and everybody was there. So I kind of got there a little late, and people were like clearing out. And I came into this room and I looked and I was like, look like Aaron Pryor. So ironically, it was only one other person and Aaron Pryor was in there. And I just went up to him and said, hey, how you doing? Could I talk to you for a minute? He's like, oh, sure. So we're talking. Now, everybody knows that you said one of the fights with Alexis Arguello, he went back to the corner and his trainer at the time was a gentleman by the name of Panama Lewis. And Panama Lewis was really flashy, but he's also known for people thought he cut corners and things like that nature. So he's fighting Alexis Arguello at some points when he kind of came back to the corner. They were looking for some refreshment, for some water to give Aaron Pryor. And Aaron Pryor was sitting there waiting for the drink. And then the person hands him the bottle. He goes, look at the bottle. And he goes, no, not that one. The one I mixed, the mix. And I was like, the hell? He said, the mix. So he gives Aaron Pryor the mix bottle. Aaron Pryor comes back and just annihilates. It's almost he has this, whatever this is. It was a good, great Gatorade, whatever. He just comes back with a full energy, like he just, woo. And it was amazing. And unfortunately, Alexis Arguello could not handle it. And then, of course, as they move forward, people back watch the tie fight. They go, look, it had to be something in that bottle. And then, of course, they made allegations against Panama Lewis. I think they suspended him for quite some time and whatnot too. So that was the story. So I'm talking to Aaron Pryor, which that was a small talk. I said, I had two questions for you. I asked him one, and I said, I got one other question for you. And he just starts smiling, of course, because that's who he was. He goes, uh-oh. And he just looked at me and smiled like, I already know it's coming. He goes, uh-oh. I was like, wow. And he just looked at me, all right, go ahead. I said, I just got one other question. And my question to you, champ, is what was in the bottle? What was in the mix? The mix. Because some people said they thought it was something to spike the drink. So it might have been, some people said it was peppermint schnapps. So he get fired up and come out drinking and stuff like that too. And he took his time a little bit and he goes, so you want to know what was in the bottle? I said, yeah, come on, champ, tell me what was in the bottle. He said, you really want to know? I said, yeah. And he put his head down and he looked up and he said, I think he had glasses on, took his glasses off. He says, the love of Jesus. I said, man, he said, the love of Jesus. That's what's in that box. And I laughed so hard, he laughed, and he just looked at me. I looked at him, and he gave me some dap, and I gave him a hug. I said, man, I appreciate you so much. I love what you do. I love your whole career. I said, blessings to you, my brother. But that was the ultimate, bro. He said, you want to know what's in the bottle? I was ready. You gonna tell me what's in the mix? He said, the love of Jesus. I said, wow.
Yeah, and never give trade secrets. Never.
That was Aaron Pryor, man. The love of Jesus in the bottle.
So do yourself a favor, folks. If you want to see some great boxing from a guy who was relentless, who didn't get his just due. We're trying to give folks their just due on this show and give them their props. I know they've already passed on, but the memory lives on. Check out the fights of Aaron Pryor, especially the one with Thomas Hearns, where he beat him in the National Golden Gloves. That was a sight to behold because when I was told that he beat Tommy Hearns, I'm like, ain't no way he could beat Tommy Hearns. And when you see the fight, you saw how he did it. And after the fight, those guys had mad respect for each other. You know, you saw they had mega love for each other. Give you your last.
What time is it? What time is it? Halt time.
Coming out in the ring. I'll give you the last word on this, sir.
Man, it is refreshing just to be able to talk about somebody who really was a warrior and just did it, the right way. Came from a crazy background. That's the other part. He overcame a lot of things, and money was of no object to him. He really didn't care about making a bunch of money. As he said before, the other people in my family, my relatives and my loved ones enjoyed the money. It wasn't about that because he never came from anything. Similar to what Mike Tyson had mentioned, but just to see how he was able to come up and be recognized in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Kind of one of the true dudes from the Nasty Natty that you meet him, just as nice as it can be. And some people that are accomplished a lot of things like that, they're nowhere near that. And he had his, he lived a simple life, from my understanding. And he just wanted to fight and box and be one of the greatest all the time. And I think he reached that definitely reached that mark. From Cincinnati, Ohio, the great Hawk and Pryor.
He's Icewater. I'm Puma, and this is the Fight Game.